Summer is behind us at last, and all the leaves have turned red. With autumn now upon us, I want to share with you the last of my summer witchery. Hi everyone, my name is Mako, and I'm the Gallic witch. The first thing I prepared for winter is elderberry syrup. Elderberry is the best herbal remedy for winter. It has the highest concentration of vitamin C and is incredibly powerful to strengthen the immune system and prevent winter illnesses. Making it into a syrup is the easiest way to consume it throughout the season, and it's also delicious. To make it, you need to harvest ripe elderberries and wash them. It's very important that they are ripe, because elderberries are poisonous when they are not completely black. If they float in the water, it's also a sign that they are not ripe enough. When washing, pick out any debris or dirt that's floating in the water. After draining, you need to add the berries in a large pot with equal parts sugar, a chopped fresh ginger root, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. Ginger is also great for colds, and it has magical properties of strengthening power. Cinnamon simply adds a nice background flavor, and it's a success and luck ingredient to help again with the effectiveness of the syrup. It is, however, completely optional. Then you're going to cook the syrup on medium heat until the sugar is completely dissolved. Then switch to low heat and cook the syrup for about an hour, checking often for burning or thickening too quickly. When you're happy with your syrup, you can keep it as is or pass it through a press and sieve to make it smoother. I'm using a mechanical blender that is in my family since like the 19th century or something, and it is very useful for this kind of stuff. Then you're going to pour it in glass bottles or jars when still very hot to seal the opening and store in the fridge or a cold space for up to 6 months. You can keep the puree of elderberries and use it in varying ways, both as a magical ingredient if you dry it and make it into a powder, or as something to eat. During the cold season, you can take a soup spoon of syrup every morning to prevent sickness, or a soup spoon morning and evening to help cure an already set-in cold. As the blackberry season was starting to wane, I finally took the time to harvest as much as I could. Just like the elderberries, you need to wash them, pick any debris left in the water, and leave them to dry. To make a blackberry jam, you can put them in a pot with equal amounts of sugar, although if you prefer it a little less sweet, you can put 3/4 of the weight in sugar. It will still preserve it as a jam, but won't be as sweet. In all of my recipes, when I mention sugar, I always mean unrefined, blonde or cane sugar, however you want to call it, never granulated white caster sugar. To the blackberries and the sugar, I added the juice of an entire lemon as well as its zest. Then you're going to cook it on medium to low heat for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how moist the blackberries are. When the jam has thickened, you can either crush the blackberries, blend them with a mechanical or electrical blender, or leave them as is. Though honestly I wouldn't recommend it, because they'll feel a bit too crunchy in my opinion. To make the pie crust, you will need 250 grams of flour, a pinch of salt, 190 grams of room temperature butter. It needs to be soft enough to spread with a knife easily, 1 egg yolk, 6 centiliters of cold water, and brown sugar to taste. You're going to take a bowl and put the soft butter cut into small chunks into it and cover with flour and brown sugar. Then mix slowly with your fingers until it becomes like sand and is crumbly and even in texture. Try not to put your entire hands in there because the warmth of your palms will melt the butter and ruin the texture of the pastry. When the sand is uniform, mix the egg yolk, the salt and the water in a container separately. You're going to pour half of it in the bowl and mix thoroughly. Then you're going to use the other half little by little to make sure you don't add too much. You're looking for something that is a perfect ball of dough that doesn't stick to the bowl or your hands at all and has a nice texture. To make sure, you can try to flatten it with your hands, and if cracks appear around or inside of the circle you've created, or you notice it to be too dry, there isn't enough of the egg water mixture, and if it sticks to your hands or the surface at all, it is too moist. Then you're going to roll the dough relatively thick, as you don't want the syrup of the blackberries to soak it through and ruin the crumbly texture. Line a mold with pastry paper, add the dough, the blended blackberries on top, and if you have some fresh berries left over, you can add them as topping. I also add a sprinkle of cinnamon and nutmeg and the peel zest of a lemon. It is optional, but you can scatter some chunky sugar on top. I'm not sure the English name for it is, I'm sorry, but we use it a lot on pastries and viennoiserie here in France. Then you're going to bake it at 180 degrees Celsius or 356 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 to 40 minutes. You need to check often to make sure the blackberries don't burn or become too dry and the dough gets a nice brown color. Finally, serve with homemade whipped cream or ice cream. We enjoyed the pie and I left a slice as an offering for the gods. Soon enough, a very important time of year was just around the corner. Alongside Beltane, we sometimes use Ivos Giamoni for the same holiday. The 3 Days of the Dead is probably the most important Ivos we celebrate. This year I was incredibly blessed to spend the 3 nights spread between 2 of my family groups. We celebrated our dead, we remembered them, called their name. Maybe one day I'll do a full video on what this holiday is like for us and what we celebrate and how. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. I have a video of what I did last year, but I was alone, so it doesn't work exactly the same way as when we celebrate as a group. I'm part of a closed Discord server for Gaulish polytheists and believers in the Gaulish faith in general. It was a great time to be there because we shared what we did for the holiday, like prayers and celebration, devotions and dedication, and a lot of pictures taken of our nemeton and sacred rituals. The 3 nights are a sacred time of year and a close practice for us, so I won't be showing anything that could clearly show how we celebrate or give too much detail, but I thought you might be interested in a spell I did on the first night, as well as some footage. This spell is based on a spell by the White Witch from the White Witch Parlor. I've put the link in the description and in the info above, and you should definitely go subscribe to her because she does incredible work of explaining, teaching, and she's an amazing resource for witchcraft and spellwork. You can watch her video for the minutiae and details, so I'll just explain why I did this spell and what I adapted to my practice. I don't really believe in color magic and I'm not a Wiccan, so the color of my tools doesn't really matter outside of aesthetic, which I believe in greatly. And I don't use an atame like the White Witch does in her video. I don't use a wand either, not being a Wiccan. Idem for crystals. I'm kind of an amateur geologist and I love how crystals look, so that's why I use them, not for the correspondences really or the magical properties some practitioners give them. However, I will still give you indications for colors, crystals and correspondences because I want you to be able to adapt this spell to your own practice and you might believe in these specific things. The first thing I did was clean the space with smoke. I crafted a bundle with herbs I harvested in the Black Mountain. It's a mix of rosemary, thyme and cedar. I lit up the candles of my nemeton to start the ritual, as doing so completes the trio of fire, well and tree that is always present in my sacred working space. It's a symbolic gesture because I feel that when the flame isn't there, the trifecta isn't complete and therefore the space is inactive. I carved the words "Qu'ainsi soit fait" on a red tea-light candle. I used red because it matches the space, but red is a color associated with this time of year as well, and passion, power, love, sex, anger, revenge and wrath. It's also used as a stand-in for blood. I then crushed some laurel and sage on top. Laurel is a protection herb and a carrier herb, so you can use it to carry a prayer, a message, or as a bridge between you and a deity, a spirit, or the fae. Sage is a purifier and cleanser, as well as the universal healing herb in the folk practice of my people. Then I used the nemeton candle to drip wax on top to seal the herbs into the tea-light candle. With a knife, I carved words on the apple to guide the spell. Then I cut the top of the apple little by little until the hole would fit the tea-light candle perfectly. In the hole underneath, I put an amethyst as a representation of a late loved one who gifted it to me, as this whole spell as well as the celebration is in remembrance of people we lost. Amethyst can represent dreams and nightmares, witches and witchcraft, the spiritual realm, and fairies. Us mountain folks believe that putting an amethyst underneath your pillow will keep nightmares at bay and give you wisdom while you sleep on the matters of the waking world. Then I blessed the apple with a simple mix of an elemental blessing and a call to the 3 axes of Gaulish belief, the tree, the well and the fire. I used rainwater and dirt from the Black Mountain, the smoke and flame from the nemeton candle, and a clear quartz as a tangible representation of the veil and the doomnos. Finally, I lit the candle, thus activating the spell. I let it burn the entire night, and the next day the apple was eaten during a ceremony. I lost one of my closest family members this year, so this was a mourning year for us. We have specific practices when that happens, as well as a different way to celebrate the 3 nights of the dead. In the first year that follows the death of someone very close, so this was a pretty hard time. But this ceremony and this celebration are very important to us, and I am very glad that I was able to spend it with family this year. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this one interesting, that you learned something today, and that maybe you're going to try to bake some of the stuff I showed you. And please remember to follow me on any of the links that are shown here, as well as subscribe so you don't miss any of my next videos. May the gods watch over you and guide your steps. Thank you for watching. Bye.